In the early 1990s, Selena Quintanilla was at the peak of her rise. Beloved for her Tejano music, style, and charisma, she was on the brink of major crossover success when her life was suddenly cut short. On March 31, 1995, Selena was shot at a Days Inn in Corpus Christi, Texas. She died hours later from severe blood loss at just 23 years old. The shooter was Yolanda Saldívar, the president of Selena's fan club, who had been confronted over embezzling money and was in the process of being fired. Now, nearly 30 years later, Saldívar is eligible for parole and is preparing to release a docuseries titled Selena and Yolanda: Secrets Between Them. The announcement has angered many, as she has shown little remorse and continues to justify her actions. Whether anyone believes her is another matter. The year Selena's murderer became a fan. In 1991, Yolanda Saldívar attended a Selena Quintanilla concert in San Antonio, a moment later detailed by journalist Maria Celeste Araras in Selena's Secret, the revealing story behind her tragic death. At the time, Saldívar was a 30-year-old registered nurse and not even a Selena fan. She went only because her niece invited her. But once she saw Selena perform live, everything changed. She was instantly captivated. After the show, Saldívar looked for merchandise to remember the night, only to realize none existed. That disappointment sparked an idea, creating an official Selena fan club. Accounts differ on how persistent she was in pushing the idea. Selena's father, Abraham Quintanilla, later said she called him repeatedly, while Saldívar claimed it was only a few times. Either way, by June 1991, she was officially approved to start the Selena fan club and became its president. Working closely with Selena's sister Suzette, Saldívar handled fan club matters for months before ever meeting Selena herself. That first face-to-face meeting didn't happen until December of that year, 6 months after the fan club was formed. The president of the Selena fan club gets close to Selena and her family. Under Yolanda Saldívar's leadership, the Selena fan club grew rapidly, reaching thousands of members within just a few years. As she proved herself dependable, Saldívar steadily moved closer to Selena and the Quintanilla family. According to reports, whenever Selena was in or around San Antonio, Saldívar was almost always nearby, acting as her constant companion and self-appointed eyes and ears. Her devotion impressed the family, and they gradually trusted her with more responsibility. Before long, Saldívar's entire life revolved around Selena. She was given access to business accounts and even a key to Selena and her husband's home, placing her firmly inside the singer's inner circle. Selena came to see her as more than just a fan club manager. She trusted her, confided in her, and listened to her advice. Selena later spoke warmly of that bond, once saying that Yolanda was the person who encouraged her to consider going to college. Saldívar gets a promotion and becomes increasingly obsessive. With a lifelong passion for fashion and beauty, it was only natural that Selena Quintanilla would eventually launch her own clothing line. In 1994, at the height of her career, fresh off winning her first Grammy for Best Mexican-American Album, she opened 2 Selena Etc. boutiques in Corpus Christi and San Antonio. The stores quickly became must-visit destinations for fans, offering Selena memorabilia, clothing she helped design herself, and even full salon services. The person chosen to manage both locations was someone Selena trusted deeply, Yolanda Saldívar. But not long after Saldívar stepped into that role, troubling behavior began to surface. According to journalist Maria Celeste Araras, boutique employees later described Saldívar as increasingly possessive, often trying to isolate Selena from others. The tension grew so intense that Martin Gomez, the designer behind Selena's boutique fashion line, quit after just 8 months, saying he could no longer tolerate working under Saldívar. Her fixation followed her home as well. One roommate reportedly moved out after only 2 weeks, unnerved by what she described as a shrine to Selena that had taken over the apartment. Selena's money goes missing. Despite growing concerns about Yolanda Saldívar's behavior, Selena Quintanilla continued to stand by her. According to the Washington Post, Selena repeatedly defended Saldívar whenever others questioned her conduct. That loyalty held firm until Selena's father, Abraham Quintanilla, was alerted to something far more serious. In January 1995, he began receiving complaints from fan club members who said they had sent in their $22 fees but never received the promised merchandise. Instead of alarming Selena right away, Abraham quietly started looking into it himself. What he uncovered was disturbing. As reported by D Magazine, there were clear signs of financial misconduct, unpaid bills, missing money, and forged checks that Saldívar had written to herself and members of her family. Digging deeper revealed an even more troubling pattern. Saldívar had previously been accused of embezzling funds from another employer and had also defaulted on a student loan. The woman who had embedded herself so deeply into Selena's life was now facing the reality that her access and her influence were coming to an end. Yolanda Saldívar gets fired and purchases a gun. On March 9, 1995, Selena Quintanilla sat down with her father, Abraham, and her sister, Suzette, to confront Yolanda Saldívar about the growing concerns over missing money. According to UPI, Abraham made it clear that he was prepared to involve the police and launch an embezzlement investigation. Saldívar's explanations didn't add up. By the end of the meeting, the family decided they could no longer trust her and officially removed her from her roles. When she tried to return to work the following day, Abraham turned her away. The fallout sent Saldívar spiraling. On March 11th, she bought a gun, and 2 days later, after passing a background check, she took possession of a .38 caliber pistol. Even after being fired, Saldívar still had leverage. She had taken important financial documents belonging to Selena and used them to delay a clean break. On March 15th, Selena went with her husband, Chris Perez, to retrieve the records. The meeting was unsettling. Saldívar returned only part of the paperwork and, at one point, showed Selena the gun she claimed was for protection. Selena remained calm, told her to return it, and even floated the idea that Saldívar could still help manage future stores in Mexico. The conversation appeared to ease tensions briefly, and shortly afterward the gun was returned to the store. The final days. Although Yolanda Saldívar had briefly returned the gun after meeting with Selena, that calm didn't last. On March 26th, she went back to the gun store and repurchased the same .38 caliber revolver, just days before it would be used against Selena. Still holding key financial documents, Saldívar asked Selena to come alone to her room at the Days Inn on the night of March 30th to retrieve them. Selena chose not to go by herself. She arrived with her husband, Chris Perez, who stayed outside while the two women spoke inside room 158, according to Maria Celeste Araras. Saldívar handed over some of the paperwork, but then claimed she had been raped during a recent trip to Mexico. Later that night, as Selena was heading home, Saldívar called again, saying she was bleeding badly and needed to go to the hospital. Selena also realized more documents were still missing. They agreed to meet again the next morning. This time, Selena went alone. On the morning of March 31st, 1995, Selena met Saldívar once more. The tension was already clear at the hospital, where Selena questioned inconsistencies in Saldívar's story and openly expressed doubt. Doctors were unable to perform the exam needed to confirm the alleged assault, and the two women returned to room 158. There the argument continued, growing more heated behind the closed door. Selena Quintanilla is murdered. After returning from the hospital on the morning of March 31st, 1995, Selena Quintanilla and Yolanda Saldívar went back to the Days Inn, where the situation quickly escalated. Inside the room, the argument reignited. Selena once again asked for the remaining financial documents, clearly trying to bring their professional relationship to a final end, according to Texas Monthly. Saldívar responded by demanding that Selena return a ring she had previously been given by employees. As Selena began to remove the ring, the confrontation took a sudden and deadly turn. At 11:48 a.m., with her back turned, Selena was shot. A motel maid later recalled hearing Saldívar shout, "Bitch!" as Selena ran from the room, bleeding heavily. According to D Magazine, the bullet severed a major artery, passed through her right lung, and exited through her chest. Selena staggered into the motel lobby, collapsed, and pleaded with staff to lock the door, saying Saldívar would shoot her again. When asked who had shot her, Selena used her last strength to say, "Yolanda, room 158, before losing consciousness, still clutching the ring in her hand. Paramedics rushed her to the hospital within minutes, but the blood loss was catastrophic. By the time she arrived, she was clinically brain dead. Despite what the Associated Press described as heroic efforts by doctors, Selena Quintanilla was pronounced dead at 1:05 p.m. She was just 23 years old, a standoff with the police. As Selena fought for her life at the hospital, Yolanda Saldívar remained in the parking lot of the Days Inn. In the moments after the shooting, witnesses described her as hysterical, sitting inside her red pickup truck with the gun pressed to her head. Threatening to take her own life, Saldívar triggered a tense standoff that stretched on for nearly 9.5 hours. Police negotiator Larry Rucker Young spent more than 7 hours on the phone with her, trying to keep the situation from spiraling further. During the standoff, Saldívar alternated between sobbing, blaming Selena's father for what had happened, and insisting she wanted to die. Her main demand was to know what was happening to Selena, whether she was alive and what condition she was in. Recognizing how unstable Saldívar was, Young chose not to tell her that Selena had already died. Instead, he focused on calming her down and persuading her to put the gun away. He later said she seemed desperate for someone to listen, repeatedly describing Selena as her best friend, saying she loved and admired her, and claiming she would have done anything for her. Eventually, after hours of negotiation, Saldívar surrendered and was taken into custody, bringing the standoff to an end. Mourning Selena. Selena Quintanilla's death sent shockwaves across the country. That very night, thousands of fans gathered in cities everywhere for candlelight vigils, while Spanish-language radio stations played her music non-stop. Callers flooded the airwaves in tears, sharing their grief over the loss of a Tejano star who had become a cultural symbol. Across Texas, dances at Tejano venues were canceled as communities collectively mourned. On Monday, April 3rd, a public viewing was held, and fans began lining up before sunrise to say goodbye. Thousands passed by Selena's closed casket, which was surrounded by 5,000 white roses she loved. As the day went on, rumors began to circulate that Selena wasn't really in the casket and that the viewing was staged. To put an end to the speculation, the Quintanilla family made the painful decision to open the casket about an hour before the visitation ended. There was no doubt then, it was Selena. Her hands were folded across her chest, holding a single red rose. By the time the doors closed that night, nearly 60,000 people had come to pay their respects. Now imprisoned, Saldívar still claims it was an accident. In October 1995, the jury took just 2 hours to reach its verdict. Yolanda Saldívar was found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison, with no chance of parole until at least March 2025. She has remained incarcerated ever since at the Mountain View Unit, a maximum security women's prison in Gatesville, Texas. Even after her conviction, Saldívar continued to insist that the shooting was accidental, later claiming in a 2020 interview that her conscience is clear. According to her version of events, she was the one trying to end the business relationship, not Selena. Saldívar claimed that Selena begged her to stay and that during the confrontation she held the gun to her own head, threatening suicide if Selena didn't leave. She said the weapon discharged by accident as she gestured toward the door. Despite overwhelming evidence and decades behind bars, Saldívar has never changed that account. As recently as 2019, she attempted to secure a new trial, but the request was quickly denied. The film, Selena, was intended to put to rest any ugly rumors and falsities. Selena hit theaters in 1997, just 2 years after the singer's death. Although the film was produced by Selena's own family, some felt the project came together too quickly. Salma Hayek, who was offered the lead role soon after the tragedy, turned it down, later saying she felt it was simply too soon and describing the timing as a little bit distasteful, according to Oprah Daily. However, in the making of Selena, 10 years later, the filmmakers and the Quintanilla family explained why they moved forward so fast. In the 15 months between Selena's death and the start of filming, rumors were already spiraling out of control. Actor Edward James Olmos revealed that 8 books, 3 documentaries, and 2 major motion pictures were already in development, none with the family's consent. At the same time, tabloids were spreading what the family considered deeply hurtful gossip. Still grieving, the Quintanillas felt they had little choice. Acting quickly, they believed, was the only way to protect Selena's legacy. As her brother explained, the family feared that false narratives would define her story if they stayed silent. Making the film wasn't easy, but to them it was necessary to ensure that Selena, their family, and their culture were represented truthfully. Selena's legacy lives on. Although her rise was tragically cut short, Selena Quintanilla's legacy has only grown stronger with time. Decades after her death, her music continues to reach new audiences. She has sold millions of albums, with Dreaming of You remaining one of the best-selling Latin albums in U.S. history and Amor Prohibido still ranking among the top Latin albums, according to Billboard. In 2017, Selena was honored with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and in 2021, the Grammys recognized her lasting impact with a Lifetime Achievement Award. Her influence stretches far beyond sales and awards. It can be seen in the careers of artists like Jennifer Lopez, in massive murals, and in fashion, film, and television projects inspired by her style and spirit. Perhaps most powerfully, Selena reshaped representation in media as a Mexican-American woman. As Nathan Shea Rodriguez told CNN, "She gave me an identity in the media, and she gave me a person I could be."